only two objectives, the front and the back. Question number 1. 12. Guys, phones up. Phones away. Phones up. Okay. So we'll go through these problems on the first page and then any problems you want to see on the back. Alright. For all of your equations, you have to isolate the absolute value bars, get them by itself. If that is already the case, like in number 1, drop the absolute value bars. The board is being so weird today. Set it equal to a negative and a positive 5. I'm just going to set it equal like this. You can make 2 separate equations if you so choose. And then we got to get rid of the 6. How would we do that? So then our 2 answers would be negative 30 and positive.
Could you do plus minus 30?
Yes, you could also do that. Either or. Okay. For number 4, very similar. It's already isolated. Drop the absolute value bar and set it equal to a negative and a positive. How would I get rid of 5? 5. Those of you that weren't here should be paying attention. So our answers would be plus or minus 6. Sorry. Questions on that one? Yeah.
So you would finish it like the first one?
You could do it this way or this way. Either or. Okay. Number 12. To isolate, we have to get rid of the negative 3. How would we do that?
Plus 2.
So keep the absolute value here. 7 minus 9x equals 20. And now that we've isolated, then you can drop it, set it equal to negative and positive. How would we start to solve this?
Plus minus 7.
Minus 7. We have negative 27 equals negative 9x equals negative positive 13.
Then divide by
And I would say put this in the calculator. Go get that if you have that.
So you're
going
to the Social Society.
This is going to stay a fraction.
Oh, she looks so sweet. She got like use it usual. Really?
So the second one's going to stay a fraction. So when you write your final answer, you're going to have negative 13 ninths and 3. Do we have to do the brackets? Yes.
We're all on top. She's just saying
Yes.
She's like, what's going on?
Okay, we're going to do 10. Guys, stop talking. And then go on to the back. For number 10, we have to isolate the absolute value by getting rid of the 5. How do we do that? Multiply both sides by 5. So in the absolute value, keep this 5x plus 8. After you've isolated it, then you can drop it, set it equal to the positive and negative. And then to solve, get rid of 8 first.
Can you do the 5 first? Divide the 5 first.
You could, but then you're going to end up with fractions everywhere. I would avoid that. Unless everything was divisible by 5.
Yeah. Oh, except 8.
Yeah, because of the 8. It won't work well. So these are not going to be nice when you divide them. You can leave them as fractions or put them as decimals. That's
Is that supposed to be done?
it was my equal sign. So if you wanted to make them decimals, you could, but you don't have to. Yes.
Say both fractions were positive, how would you figure out which one is smaller?
You can look at the decimal. So it was 33 over 5 and 17 over 5. So this would be the small one. Great. Questions on that?
You do number 15.
15,
13.
13. Maybe
18.
21, 18, 20, 20.
Sorry.
No. Alright, we'll do these first, and then if we have any others, we'll do those. Okay. You start off the same way. Isolate the absolute value. If you don't need to do that, you're going to make your two cases, but depending on the sign, so if it's less than, that's going to be in. And you're going to make two cases. You can make them condensed or separate. I'll do both for this one. And you're going to make the same case, but on the, a similar case, but on the opposite side. So negative 5 is less than or equal to b over 2, which is less than or equal to 5. Or you could make two separate cases, keep one the same, and then drop your absolute value, change the direction of the sign, and make your 5 negative. This is the same thing as this, but if it's and, you want it condensed.
I mean, you have to multiply 2 to get rid of it.
Yes. I'm just doing that to everything. So in our condensed inequality, we have negative 10 is less than or equal to b, which is less than or equal to 10. In these two, you get the same thing. In the condensed, you could just do start to end point. So at negative 10, that would be closed. At positive 10, also closed. These are counting by 2s with a line in between.
You still have to write it in like that.
Your final answer needs to be condensed.
So like that.
Like this. You don't have to write the interval notation or we practiced the other day. If you did it like this, you would draw in both. At 10 going to the left, at negative 10 going to the right, and then you would see the overlap and you'd have to draw in that one. So you could do it either way. Yes.
So negative 10 is that equation, so that would be the answer.
This whole thing.
Yeah.
It's saying your inequality is from negative 10 and everything in between. Other questions on that one before we do 18? On 18, you have to isolate first, get rid of the negative 3 by doing what? Adding.
Is that number 18?
18, yep. This is greater than, so it's going to be or. Because it's or, you're going to make two separate cases regardless. So one's going to be the exact same, negative 7 plus 6r is greater than 55. The other one, negative 7 plus 6r less than negative 55. you're gonna solve both. I don't know why I put 8. I was supposed to put 7. Add 7 to both sides.
If you have to divide by negative number, you still put the signs.
I don't know if there's a whole number or not. This one is. So you can leave that as a simplified fraction. If I go into alpha y equals and put in 2/6, it's just going to be a fraction. That would be the decimal, so I can see about where I would put it. We have r is greater than 31/3 and r is less than -8 because the sign would change direction because we divided by a negative. Or divided and it was negative, sorry. Sorry, that's what you just asked. No, this actually wouldn't change by that. Because we didn't actually divide by it. Okay.
If you divide by negative, you have to do like this.
Yes. So this one is going to be a weird case. This one's a weird case because it doesn't graph apart. It just keeps graphing on top of each other.
For the fraction, do you just simplify it?
So because of that, we're just going to read it left to right, the furthest point to the left to the furthest point to the right. So it would just be this.
And they're both open circles, right?
Hmm.
They're both open circles.
So when you graph it, it would, yes, it would both be open. They would look like this, but actually it would just be this part. You wouldn't even have this part.
On number 13, both of the sounds are less than or equal to. How come they're like one? It's not like that other.
This one's an and. So and graphs together.
If it's less than,
if it's less than, it is. Yeah. Other questions on 18 before we do 20? For 20, same thing, isolate. Guys, stop talking. Add 7 to both sides. This is less than.
Can I get water real quick?
Yes. So that's and. So drop your absolute value.
I'm giving you the
Sorry. So this would be -9 less than or equal to 6b minus 9 less than or equal to 9. Would you add 9 for all the sides? Divide everything by 6. So you have a line that starts at 0 that ends at 3. They would both be close. Questions there?
0 divided by 6
Yeah, it would still be 0. So if you get 0, don't make it disappear. Keep that. And then 21 is greater than, so that would be or.
And it's a closed line because it's less than equal to.
For 20, yes. When you set up your two cases, it's just going to be n is greater than 8 or n is less than negative 8. You're going to graph both of those, and they'll both be open. So the last or we did was a weird case because they both ended up going the same way.
Oh, what? Wait a minute, how did we get anyone to each side? How come they're not like going the same way?
So this one was a weird case because they both ended up going the same way. Oh wait,
I'm still
I
confused.
switched this side twice. That's probably what it was. So it shouldn't have done that. That was my bad.
I'm still confused.
It shouldn't have overlapped.
They should,
They
it
should
should,
have,
it
yes.
usually should be like that.
Other questions? Weird.
Why did you flip the signs around?
So you have to make two cases. One's going to be the exact same, the other one's going to be a bit different. Other questions on this page that you wanted to do later? Anyone else have any other questions? Guys, side conversations need to stop. Other questions? Many of you were not here for this and I just ran through that, so if you have questions, now is the time to ask. I said this, how would we get rid of the 6? Multiply on both sides. This is a less than, so that's going to be an and.
Does it really matter?
It does. They're not going to be graphed the same, they're not going to be written the same. So because it's and, I'm going to set it up where it's in between, it's condensed. Negative 30 is less than 70, minus 3 is less than 30.
You add.
And then divide everything by 7.
Whenever we are you
So if you split it, that you didn't, so if you split it, would you get it wrong?
No. So you can still split it, but you couldn't put or. You have to still, you have to eventually know it's and. Your final answer would need to look like this. And you would still need to graph it the same way. So it's easier if you just condense it. Like in this problem, we don't know those decimals, those fractions. So you could type that in the calculator. So it would be close to 4 and close to 5. With a line every time. Other questions?
So instead of actually doing this, would you just count it? So then here's a
I just flipped it back to the first page.
Yes, so
You can't solve 11 because it's negative.
Say that one more time.
You can't solve 11 because it's negative.
So isolate it first because it may look like that, but once I divide both sides by -9, it becomes a positive. This is back on the front. So it depends on what the problem is. These are multiplying, so you would get rid of by dividing. I set up your two cases and then solve it again. Other questions? On this or the front? So for number 19, isolate this, get rid of the -5. And then this is greater than, so it's going to be or. Drop your absolute value, make your two cases. Four plus 5.
You don't.
Yeah, sorry.
No, but it's delicious. Like, I just know. Oh, what about the difference between 2%? All the way to do that. I was like,
Solve both. Add 2.
I think we'll have I was at like 26, and then the rest of the episode, 26 is crazy. It's still so crazy. Like the last 17, I was like, the last 17, this one was 30. It was that pilot. I'm shy.
And then divide both. One of these is going to be a fraction decimal. So one of them is definitely going to be at -1, close, going to the left.
I saw a picture of
The other one will be between 1 and 2, going to the right.
So if you solve the word,
Guys,
so when you're solving the answer or problem, you just flip this sign regardless.
you are doing the same thing with the and. It's just, it's condensed, so it doesn't look like it's.
So it's like
So you could separate it still for both, but at the end for and it needs to look like. I don't know if it's less than or less than. So when we come back from lunch, you guys are going to take your quiz. Again, it is 2 objectives.